Well, first of all, I just love skiing. Like, so much. There's nothing in the world that brings me more joy, ever.
Yeah, I'm scared to death right now, but I've got this. Like, I know deep down inside, I'm capable of what I'm about to do.
I came back way stronger. I felt like the rehab was pretty simple and straightforward. And I learned how to appreciate my body and how to take care of it, what to eat, and like to stretch. I was 18, so I felt like I was invincible at the time.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to The Athletic Stance, episode 9. This week's episode, we have an athlete that I grew up ski racing with. He is very passionate, a very amazing guy. He's entered the professional movie scene at an age that some would call late, but he's passionate. First, let's take a look at our sponsors, because without them, none of this is possible. Our first sponsor is Northwest Tech. If you haven't heard of them yet, you're missing out. They hand-make customizable 3-layer outerwear to order in the Pacific Northwest. And that means you know that it keeps you warm, dry, and looking unique while you're sending it around the mountain. They've been generous enough to give me a coupon code for my listeners. Use the code AOS75 to get $75 off any custom piece of outerwear. Their site is in the show notes. This episode is brought to you by POC. POC makes the best helmets, goggles, and protective wear out there. They've been dedicated to protecting athletes since day one, and I wouldn't wear a different helmet, goggle, back pad, or hip pads. With their spin technology and VPD system, there are no other products on the market that are like it. Definitely go and check out POCsports.com and protect yourself today. What's up, guys? Welcome back to The Athletic Stance, episode 9. This week's episode, we have an athlete that I grew up ski racing with. He is very passionate, a very amazing guy. He's entered the professional movie scene at an age that some would call late, but he's passionately pursuing, and I have a feeling that we'll see him in many more MSP movies to come. He's injured right now, so let's go over to his Instagram and give him a ton of love. Just say you're from The Athletic Stance and say at Connery, heal up quick and happy recoveries. Without further ado, Connery Lundin.
Take 4. Final take. What's up, guys? I'm Connery Lundin. I am a professional big mountain skier from Squaw Valley, California. Scott, let's do this thing.
Let's do it. So, you want to tell us a little bit about how you got into skiing, how long you've been skiing, and just kind of your progress through the sport from racing into big mountain?
Yeah, I've been skiing since I was 2 years old. I've kind of got the same classic cliche big mountain story. You know, I grew up ski racing from a young age, the Mighty Mites, all the way up through when I was 19. And, gunning for the U.S. ski team, that whole thing. But always enjoyed free skiing. Always liked, turning in POW and hitting jumps and skiing off rails and whatnot. And once you get to that higher level of ski racing, you can't really do those things. So that's kind of when I decided to just drop ski racing like a bad habit. And I went to school in Boulder, Colorado, and kind of fell in love with just skiing.
Totally. You want to tell us a little bit about your first big mountain competition, who was in it, how you did, and how that kind of...
Yeah, first big mountain competition was sophomore year in Boulder, and I had no intention of really competing or anything in skiing anymore. Just doing it for fun. And my roommate Tony Seibert was all hyped on these free skiing world tour competitions. So we all signed up. We got in. We went down to Telluride, and it was awesome. You know, it was like I met Angel Collinson was doing her first comp there. Lexi DuPont was doing her first comp there. Just all these cool people, Jim Jack and the whole judging crew. It was just a fun event, and I ended up getting third place kind of out of the blue. And that just, kickstarted my big mountain career, if you'll call it that, to what it is today.
Totally. We've seen like a giant change in the landscape of big mountain competition in the last, 7 years it is now. Can you kind of outline, like, I think that there's still a huge community in the competition scene, but I think it's definitely changed, especially with losing Jim Jack, losing Tony, losing some of those friends, and the merger and then the separation again. Can you just walk us through kind of how that was being a competitive athlete? I was there with you, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you were there back in the glory days with the Free Skiing World Tour, which is different from the Free Ride World Tour, easily confused. But the Free Skiing World Tour was the U.S. one. The Free Ride World Tour was the European one. And we had our own thing going in the U.S. You know, it was kind of being driven more by style slowly. Judges like Jim Jack they were all about judging you based on, if that line would have been cool in a ski movie, it was cool in a competition. And, they've got this criteria set up, but really it was what looked best and what was the most fun to watch. And that was what was most fun to ski. So those competitions were awesome. And, back then, like I mentioned, Lexi DuPont and Angel and Johnny and all of these people that are big names today, it was one big family that was in this huge competition circuit. And that's kind of what made it so fun for me. Doing it was, you see all these people and they're all your friends and everyone's hyped and they're encouraging each other. And, once Jim Jack passed and the Free Skiing World Tour merged with the Free Ride World Tour and the Free Skiing World Tour dissolved, the competition landscape in the U.S. totally changed. Now it's all Free Ride World Tour qualifier events. It's kind of like the same ski racing story where kids are traveling across the country chasing points. They want to do the 2-star, but they also want to do the 4-star because you get more points there. And it's not the family that it was. It's kind of more, I want to be on the Free Ride World Tour. That's the goal. How do I get there? I do as many competitions as I can, and hopefully I do well. And I think that's really cool, and I respect that. But it's just different now.
Yeah, definitely. They only take like 3 people from the 2-star qualifier events now, whereas the old school, the qualifiers, my first event, they took 15, and that's what allowed me to get into what were the 5-star events at that point in the Free Skiing World Tour. And I remember in my first event, I made it through the qualifier, and I think Johnny Collinson started in front of me, Julian Carr started right behind me, and then, I forget who it was. It was someone else, like, right behind them. And I remember standing in the start gate, like, what is going on? The level of competition. I posted that start list earlier this summer on Facebook.
I saw that, dude. And it's funny looking back at those because back then they were all homies, and they still are homies, but they're, homies that are on billboards in New York City and, the face of, big companies and whatnot. So it's cool looking back at those start lists, but yeah, it's different now. It's different now.
Totally. It was Julian Lopez was right behind Julian Carr. So the 2 Julians and Johnny.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Wasn't that a Snowbird?
Yep, that was Snowbird. 2011, I think.
Good times, dude. Good times.
Yeah. Totally. So, competitions is kind of one of the things that propelled you into this career that you've made for yourself right now. And having watched you go through, you were always, dude, it was always, my thought process watching you was like, if he lands this, he's gonna win, or he's gonna do so well. And it was so hard because I watched you blow up, and it seemed like countless competitions. And then it was the last year of the Free Skiing World Tour that you put it all together, and it seemed like you found this focus, and you kind of reined back, just like it felt like it was like 2%, just enough to stick it to your feet, and that seemed to make all the difference. Was there a change in mindset that year? Did you just have practice? Was it a little bit of luck on your side? What was it that kind of switched that around for you?
Yeah, well, competing is so hard, dude. It's like, on any given day, someone's going to go off the biggest feature. You know that's going to happen. You don't want to be that person. It might be hard pack, it might be powder. If it's powder, then you're all going to have fun and you're all going to kill it. But 90% of the time, you don't have great conditions. So you've got to figure out, okay, I want to make day 2. You have to make it to finals to place well in the competition. So what percent of, the gas pedal can you really give that run? I like 80%.
Yeah.
I'm still going to push it, but I'm 80% sure I'm going to land my run, 20% sure I'm not.
Yeah.
4 out of 5 times I'll land this run. So yeah, over the years, I began to figure out, what percentage risk I was willing to take and what would get me there. It sucked doing really bad on day 1 when you held back, and then you're way back on day 2. So it's just this whole strategy that you start to figure out and develop over what was 4 years of competing for me. And that felt like a long 4 years. But really the biggest change from winning that year was the year before that. I had a gnarly crash in Big Sky in the last competition. Pretty much a storm of all the worst possible scenarios. I was a few points out from making the Freeride World Tour. I really wanted to make the Freeride World Tour and ski with Connor Pelton and all my friends that were doing it at the time. It was the last competition. The competition got pushed back till after 4, yada, yada, yada. I ended up going off a cliff I shouldn't have, pretty much due to all the factors I just described, and landed on rocks from like 30 feet and nearly killed myself. It was like a death-defying crash, and it definitely changed like everything about my skiing today. After that crash, I realized that I was doing it for the wrong reasons. I was skiing to make the Freeride World Tour. I wasn't skiing to have fun and do well, and kind of how it all started. It was kind of back to ski racing for me.
Totally.
So I took some time off, and that next year is the year I did really well, and I had no pressure on myself, and I wasn't trying to send the biggest thing. Before I was that guy, and that changed. It was kind of like, I'm just going to ski this run, and I'm going to find a fun line that I can ski well. And if the judges don't like it, that's that. But that was my strategy that year, and I was skiing really well and having fun. I was having the most fun I think I've ever had in a ski season that year. And so just all of that kind of came together, and luckily I was able to, come out on top that year. And I'm so grateful for that. And it took a long time.
Dude, you deserved it and you earned it. Like I said, it was kind of like every single time you were coming down, it's like he's going to be right up there as long as he stomps it. And it was kind of like, it was almost like you would, a couple times, like you would sabotage yourself, just, trying to go that little extra, like a little big, and, just really put the period in the sentence or on the end of the run, and then like, just be like one thing would get you. Like it could have been just like catching a tip, or I think at Crested Butte, the year that I threw the 7, you threw that massive flip through the field goal, and just like the snow conditions didn't quite really line up for you, but like if you would have stomped that, you probably would have won. And like, yeah, man, it's been cool to watch you kind of like I guess mature, learn from your mistakes, learn from your experience, and really solidify it. And back to the whole Montana thing, Montana seems to be a venue that brings out the nuts in everyone. Like, people just love to try and send, whether it's Toad, air or, the second day, class 6 out there. And there have been some gnarly crashes there. We've all witnessed some really gnarly crashes, and I'm really glad that you didn't do anything to yourself that was permanent in that air. And then to watch you come back and really have fun has been amazing for sure.
Yeah, it's Big Sky is probably the scariest and, in my opinion, the worst event because it's super steep, it's exposed, all the rocks are facing uphill, they're super sharp. That event wasn't fun, so I'm glad that's passed.
Yeah, totally. The first event the next year, I'm pretty sure, was Snowbird, and we got snowed out of Silver Fox, so we competed on Baldy, and I can still picture your flat spin at the bottom of the run, and I'm pretty sure that's, I think you got 7th, and I'm going off the top of my head, but I think you got 7th, but you won the Sick Bird.
Yeah, I got 5th, and I won the Sick Bird.
Okay.
And it was, that was a perfect example of my mindset that year. I was, I could have gone off a much bigger cliff, in the broom closet or whatever. I didn't want to. I was kind of like just cautious and holding back a little bit, and I just found that perfect natural takeoff, and that was the most fun thing to me. I didn't know if the judges were going to like it or not, but I wasn't even thinking that way at the time, and I got a Sick Bird, and that was awesome.
Totally.
Have that for the rest of my life.
Yeah, man. How could the judges not like it? It was so stylish, man. I can still picture it. It was so sick. What did you like? Does the Sick Bird mean more to you, or the next event I think was Telluride, and you and Kaki won that event, and you absolutely crushed it in that event. But what meant more to you, getting a win under your belt, or the Sick Bird, or did they kind of each have different feelings?
Yeah, they each have different meanings. The Sick Bird is like kind of a symbol of, you did the coolest thing, and I think that's really awesome. But winning definitely meant more to me. I'd been trying to win an event for a long time, and it's always fun to win. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, I'd done all that, and that's also really fun. But just putting the stamp on top of it that was a cool feeling. That was probably the highlight of my ski career so far.
Totally. Yeah, it was really cool to watch you lock that in. I'm hyping you up right now, giving you lots of praise, but it was really cool to watch you lock that in and really dial in your mindset and finally have the success that I feel like you had worked so hard for. I'll try and in the show notes link some of the video to these so our viewers or our listeners can see exactly what it was like for you.
Totally, I've got that video if you need it too.
Yeah, that'd be super sweet. So did you change any of your morning routines, evening routines? Was there a change in how your nutrition, your fitness, anything in that year that kind of led you into this ability to compete, or were you just kind of refining everything that you had already done?
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like I'd been skiing really well for 2 or 3 years, at a level where I could have won a competition on any day. And there's, you and there's tons of dudes that I'm always just like, any one of these guys can win today. It's not just me, it's not just them, it's anyone, there's a select few, but anyone can win on a given day. You just have your day. But where was I going with this? What was the question?
Morning routines, evening routines, nutrition.
Oh yeah, it's I'd like to think that I changed my routine, my workout routine, but I worked my ass off in the fall. I always work my ass off in the fall. I get in shape and I try to eat healthy. I party a lot. I've been trying to cut back on that a little bit, but I think it just kind of all came together naturally that year. And that was the break that I needed to take the next step in my career. And I'm lucky to have gotten that break, and it can happen to anyone. And yeah, I don't know. I felt like I was skiing on a similar level for a couple years, and I finally put a run to my feet.
Yeah.
You've had runs where you could have won and you hit check barely, and you got docked 5 points. And you probably think back and you're like, God, what if I had won that comp? Like, where would I be right now? I had a lot of those moments. So to have one where I actually made it to the finish line, that's what needed to happen, and it did.
Yeah, totally. In competition, you deal with this balancing of fear. In any level of big mountain skiing, you deal with this balancing risk versus reward and this fear. Is there something specifically that you do to manage that fear? Conscious breathing or visualization? We've had a lot of training since we grew up ski racing with visualization and inspection and stuff like that. Are there certain techniques that you use to overcome fear? Or?
Yeah, totally. I think a lot of it comes with preparation. Even before the ski season starts. Working out and bouncing on trampolines or whatever it is, and just kind of training, and you'll be able to tell your mind that you've put in the work, which gives you the confidence to do these things. And that's huge. You can't just say, "Oh yeah, I can send that 50-foot cliff." You want to believe that you can stomp that because you've taken all the steps. So I think that's really important. And then just understanding what you value. Do you really want to win this comp? Is it worth breaking your legs if you mess this up? Do you want to jump over all those rocks, or do you just want to have a nice takeoff? Or there's no risk and you're maybe going to get a few less points. Towards the end when, a few of our friends started to die, Ryan Hawks and Tony Seibert, there's countless people. When you're young, you're invincible. You think you can just do anything. And, slowly I started to realize that we're not invincible and we can get hurt and we can die doing these things. So I definitely started to consider that in all of my decisions in skiing. I still do. Death is never an option for me.
Yeah, totally. I was maybe going to get into this a little bit later, but since we're talking about it, losing best friends is something that happens in this sport, and it is never something that is welcomed at all, and it's really hard to deal with those emotions because sometimes you feel like you deserve more time with these people, you deserve their presence, like they deserved to live another day, to shred another turn. How do you deal with the loss of friends? Do you have any routines of or not necessarily routines, but writing a letter and burning it, or is there a way that helps you deal with it, or yeah?
I think when someone dies, we all try and make sense of it in a way. Mm-hmm. You're like, okay, well, how did that happen? Is there any was that person taking unnecessary risks, or you try to legitimize or justify or just gain some sort of understanding as to why it happened. And over the years, it's just become there's no reason. It's just these freak things happen, and you can't justify it, and it's hard to wrap your head around. And countless skiers have died. Big names, our friends, Tony Heffernan, Ryan Hawks, Jim Jack. It's I hate to say it, but I've almost grown numb to the pain. Yeah. I won't even cry sometimes when I first hear it. I'll just kind of get into this weird, you go into this weird state of who knows what you're thinking. And then maybe 2 or 3 days later, it kind of all hits me. I'll be looking at Facebook or something, and then you break out in tears and you're like, Jesus Christ. And I think, enough of those, and, it changes you and the decisions you make for everything you do.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, for me, like, I almost get this, like, 1,000-yard stare that I don't really even know, like, what to think. Or, I get this kind of numb state of mind. And for me, it's really easy for me to go, like, straight towards anger. I don't know why. I just get angry. And, that's been something that I've learned to deal with better and better. But for whatever reason, I just get this anger, and it, sometimes it can permeate my life for way too long. But something that Angel Collinson and I talked about, with Ryan Hawks and everything in that accident, is like just realizing that you don't deserve anyone's time. You're blessed with their time and their presence, and being grateful.
Totally.
For that time that you've had, those memories you've created, those experiences that you've got to experience with them. And, that was something that really, even in the last, I interviewed her about 2 weeks ago, and it reinforced the realization that I had that, it's not really, you don't deserve anyone's time. You're blessed with it. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's the best thing I like to do is just reflect on, every encounter and all the things you did together and what you learned from that person. And yeah, you just think of all the good, and it's nice.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And, I still haven't made it to any of the Tony, like party events to like ski down the mountain with each other or anything like that, or Spencer Nelson's hike. There are so many people that we've lost to not just the sport of skiing, but Heffernan, I think, was off a cliff jumping, which is something you're pretty crazy at.
Yeah, that's risky too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we all do crazy stuff, and it's kind of what we live for as skiers and adrenaline junkies. But man, death is not worth it.
No, definitely not. I think you knew Jordan Niedrick.
Yep.
Kind of through that Crystal Mountain event, his massive backflip. Holy crap, day one.
That was the coolest thing. I thought he was going to open a wingsuit and start flying away.
Right, like 50-footer hard pack, and he just lays it out. That was incredible. Yeah, that was, I think, the biggest hit that I took emotionally, because I was supposed to go learn how to speed fly from him, and I blew off going to see him earlier in the year because I was banking on having the time in April to go learn how to speed fly from him. And then he passed away in the middle of April, 2 weeks before I was supposed to go visit him. And that one really, took a lot out of me for sure, and made me reevaluate. And I've since started speed flying. Speed flying is how he passed away, but it was it's something where, like, you can almost, for me, I can feel his presence out there in some ways, and like especially when I see birds flying around, it just reminds me of him. It's just this like spiritual energy that I feel like he embodied. And so whenever I see birds playing around in the thermals, or when I'm out flying and I see birds hanging out in the drafts and having fun, I'm like, yeah, he's with us right now.
That's nice. Yeah.
And I think Lexi and I talked about how it almost makes you want to go out there more, not necessarily push the limits more, but to be out in those places more, and to be in the places that they enjoyed the most, like with Tony, you know, out in the mountains, you know, out in Vale. Whenever I'm out in Vale, I always think of, you know, hanging with him.
Totally. Yeah, you appreciate the little things more.
Yeah. Definitely. You know, what's one thing that you like, is there a question that you ask yourself when you're looking at a line and you're calculating risk? Is there some sort of question or some sort of formula? Like, dude, watching you jump off Havasupai last year and stuff like that, like, how do you calculate risk like that? How do you make that decision?
I mean, we all do it in, you know, in everything we do, skiing or whatever sort of adrenaline addiction we have. But, you know, if it's skiing a line, it's just understanding what risks there are. If there's rocks that you have to clear in a landing, you know, how far do you have to clear? Do you have to go fast? Do you have the speed to go fast? You know, all these things that are like, there's a million decisions you have to make so quickly. And a lot of it is visualization for me. And that comes from, you know, my ski racing background. I like to visualize, you know, exactly what angle am I going to take off. Like, I want to see myself in the air. I want to see myself landing it in my head. I want to know that I can do it in my head before I do it. But yeah, with like Havasupai, that's a 100-foot waterfall. You know, it's not like skiing where you have to make all these technical moves and turns and avoid slough. That's literally jumping off a 100-foot cliff into water. But, you know, that was a blind roller takeoff. You couldn't really see your landing. It's a huge waterfall. It's loud. It's rushing right by you. People look like ants down there. It's like, what am I committing suicide right now? But, you know, I've hit 70-footers. I've hit 80-footers. That was a 100-footer. I felt like I was ready. I was scared, but, you know, I'd taken all the steps to do it. And that's the important part.
Yeah, totally. You know, a saying that I've come across recently is it takes a lifetime to become an overnight success, and you know, I think that that you know, that saying kind of means that, you know, it's every little thing. If you're working towards it every day, you're not going to be able to just see what you're doing in the movies, or you know, what Marcus Eder or, you know, whoever is your idol in the movie. You're not going to be able to just go out there and do these things first try. You have to go out and gain experience, and the more experience you get, the more comfortable you are, and the more that it becomes like intrinsic knowledge. And
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's yeah, what you said.
Yeah, one step at a time. So you said that you try to eat healthy, or you try to like, do you have a specific diet? It's really hard when we're traveling, and you know, like, we might have late nights. I don't drink anymore, but when we were, you know, on the competition circuit together, it was like you'd get pretty drunk together, and then, you know, you might like get home and just munch on whatever it was. And you know, for me, that routine stopped working, and it became pretty apparent that it wasn't going to work for me. Do you have a specific diet that you stick to, or?
Yeah, you know, I'm kind of a closet health nerd. I'm not like counting calories and the amount of grams of protein I'm consuming a day, but I try to eat really healthy when I can. And yeah, times on the road when you're kind of not in control of that, I don't stress over it, but I try not to eat Burger King every day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's important to fuel your body with good nutrients. You know, our bodies are what are making us do all these, you know, crazy and incredible things, and you gotta treat them with respect. So yeah, I definitely try and remain health conscious and eat a lot of vegetables and, you know, whatever, do yoga, that classic bullshit. but yeah, I think that's important. And in terms of drinking and partying, you know, I still party and I still drink a little bit, but not quite as much like I did in Boulder.
Dude, see you. Having grown up in Boulder, it was pretty easy to get caught up in the party. That place is just one giant party.
Dude, I sufficiently partied enough there to not need to or deserve to party anymore.
Totally. And it's always good, I think it has its piece in skiing, kind of getting back and celebrating with each other, celebrating life, celebrating the successes of the day, celebrating, managing the risk and mitigating the risk and coming back together as a community. I think it definitely serves its purpose. I also think that people take it a couple steps too far, and I think that there's an epidemic of the ski town alcoholic that could
totally
be addressed by the ski community in a lot of ways. But do you have any?
Yeah, I would agree with that to some extent. There's some people that just they're not trying to do what we do. They ski as a total hobby, and they've got their side job or their profession, and their ski time is their party time. So for those people, more power to them. Party on the mountain, party after the mountain, opera, get drunk. But yeah, when you're kind of trying to take it a little more seriously, which we're trying to do at this point, I think it's important to recognize when you are justified in partying and when you're just being a straight up alcoholic. There's definitely a fine line there.
Yeah, definitely. I've flirted with that. Definitely maybe overstepped my boundaries a couple times, but
dude, me too. And honestly, hangovers have gotten so much worse over the last couple of years that the juice is not worth the squeeze. It hurts in the morning. So if I want to do anything that next day, I need to stay away from whiskey.
Yeah, totally. Get proper sleep, For me, not drinking, I can now still go out and, I can be the DD and, tell people what they did last night and all that. And,
oh, God.
Wake up in the morning and I end up feeling, pretty good. Maybe I'm a little bit tired, need a little extra coffee. But, yeah, it's been an eye-opening experience for me, that's for sure. Is there one piece of encouragement or wisdom that you received through your ski racing career or your big mountain career, maybe from Jim Jack or that has stuck with you? Who was it? Who was it by, and what was it, if there was?
One piece. I don't know if there was one piece, but I recall my first competition in Telluride. After day one, I was in third place, maybe second place, and I called JT Holmes, who is one of my good friends, and I kind of was like, "Yo, dude, I just did this thing, and I'm in second," and he just gave me a really good breakdown of competing and how it should be done, and it's kind of what I told you. He's like, you want to land your run, you want to land in the finals, and he basically broke down his strategy when he competed, the amount of risk you want to take. And that phone call, he's kind of been a mentor for me throughout my whole career. Whether it's just sponsorship information, writing emails, or getting in with Matchstick, just everything. He's kind of really hooked me up. So I wouldn't say there's one specific bit of advice, but he's been a lead role in a lot of the things I've done.
Yeah, totally. Mentors, finding people who have gone out and done what you want to do and making them your mentor, I think, is huge, no matter whether you're an entrepreneur or you're a skier or you're a snowboarder or, whatever. Is there a piece of advice that you'd pass on to the listeners about how to find a mentor and keep a mentor? I know you grew up in Squaw, so you kind of had that a little bit more access to him, but
yeah. Well, I think it's important to whichever mentor you're going to choose, it's like to build an authentic relationship with them beforehand. If you use them as a mentor, as that, and that's the primary purpose, then, you're kind of using them as a business resource and not so much as a friend. Maybe, there's a fine line there. I think it starts with friendship, and then, then being comfortable to ask your friends for help, not feeling like you're vulnerable or like you don't know anything. I asked Cody, I talked to Elise and, Dyak and all these people that have, they've made it before me. And, I'm still afraid, when I'm texting, I'm kind of rewriting my sentences every like 3 words, but, I still send those texts and make those calls just to hear their input. And every time I do, they're happy to help. It's just, you got to go for it, and if they're not happy to help, then that's fine. Then, you ask someone else, but it's always worth asking. And if you have something digging under your skin, or you want to know something, or like, how'd you get sponsored by this person, or, how did you get on that film trip, or whatever it is, just do it. Don't think about it too much. Just do it.
Yeah, totally. Another quote in the entrepreneurial world that I really have taken to lately is "Some will, some won't. So what next?" And
yep,
it's a pretty cool mantra to live by, because you put yourself out there. Some will like it, some won't. So what next?
Totally. Yeah, you've been going for it. I don't need to tell you anything.
Speaking of getting on film trips and stuff, how did you get into the Monumental series, and how was that in shaping your career? And, I think it was something different for you going out and doing winter camping. I'm not sure how much winter camping you had done before that. So, what was that like? How did you get into that project? Yeah.
Well, yeah, before I answer that question, I think, after I'd won the free skiing world tour, the next year I was kind of, I told myself I'm done competing. I've been doing this for 4 years, going on 5. I need to do something else. I want to do something else. And now is the time, strike while the iron's hot. But that next season, January, just, November, December, January, I had nothing going for me. I wasn't in any competitions. I didn't plan on it. And I had nothing lined up. I was stressing, it's like shit. I'm this guy who should be taking, advantage of all these opportunities I should be having, and there's no opportunities. And then this thing came up with Monumental, and Powder. And I was in Jackson. I was living in Jackson, and KGB, the production crew, is based out of Jackson. They kind of caught word that, I could ski and this and that. And I got an invite to go on their first trip to Yosemite. It was, as you said, it was a winter camping trip. It was full on gnarly touring. Before that, I had never gone touring. I'd never gone winter camping. I had no experience at all. And I totally just kind of, I wouldn't say lied, but I was like, oh yeah, I'm totally game. Let's do this. I had nothing else. So I put all my eggs in that basket, and we went to Yellowstone, and the first day it was bright and sunny, and the next day hell froze over. It was full on January blizzard Yosemite winter conditions for the next 6 days. It was insane. But I got to, hang out with Lindsay Dyer and Coulter Hinchcliffe and Andy Mayer, and we had these incredible zones all to ourselves, and we got some really cool shots out of it. And after that, KGB was like, hey, we want you on the next trip. And so it just kind of built on itself from there. But just getting that first invite was lucky. It was right place, right time. And, winning the free skiing world tour definitely helped. But that was quite an experience, and that sort of kicked off the whole filming thing. And, as a skier, when I'm, a little kid, I want to be in the big movies, that's like, to me, that was always the coolest thing. And so that was always the ultimate goal. Competing was kind of a means of getting to that goal. And so it slowly worked out over the years.
Definitely. I think, you might be one of the last of the era that really benefits off of the competition leading into movie appearances. Maybe. I don't really know. But it kind of seems to be trending that way. Like I think Chris Benchetler did some competitions, did well, got picked up by movie production companies. Griffin Post, Ian McIntosh. There's a lot of big names that have, but to me, it seems like the trend is going towards less opportunity, and it even almost seems like sponsors are looking at competitions quite a bit differently, unless you really are on the Free Ride World Tour. And even then, like Mark Mikos last year, crusher of a skier, amazing skier. He was struggling to get money to go and travel Europe to be on the Free Ride World Tour. Can you comment on the way that the competition scene is trending?
I mean, I think it's just the world of skiing has changed. Mm-hmm. I think 10 or 15 years ago was the golden era for sponsorships, and you would sign $60,000 contracts with Helly Hansen and Smith, and you had all this money thrown at you, and you didn't have social media, and it was just one ski movie a year, and that's what people got stoked on. And it was, I'm not saying it was easier, it was simpler then. Yep. And now there's so much that goes into it, and so there's a million great skiers out there, like top notch everything, park skiers, big mountain skiers, whatever it is. But you've got to do more than that now to really differentiate yourself. And either you're the best of the best at what you're doing in skiing, or you're really good and you can market yourself pretty well, or you can market yourself extremely well and you can't ski all that well. There's so many ways to do it, but it's getting harder. It's a formula that I'm still trying to figure out.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, it's definitely.
And yeah, regarding Mark Mikos not having any budget, God, I have so many friends that deserve to be fully paid, sponsored pro skiers, and they can't get a cent. And they're still working in restaurants. I was working in a restaurant doing landscaping last summer. This is my first real year being able to kind of fully focus on skiing, which has been great, but it took a long time, even after filming movies.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's never easy, and that's kind of where I've, changed my direction with starting the company Academy of Skiing, starting this podcast, being a social media skier with Instagram. I'm starting a webisode series called Ski-nanigans, which I want to get you in on so bad.
Sick.
So yeah, it takes, I'm kind of throwing a bunch of irons into the fire and seeing which ones get hot right now. But yeah, man, there's no real formula right now, and it is. I think you're right. 10, 15 years ago, it was a lot more simple of a time. And
yeah, and it's like, for myself, and I think I speak for a lot of skiers that have made it pro or are trying to make it pro and get paid for what they do. We're skiers. We're not businessmen or businesswomen. We are skiers, and then over time you have to kind of learn this second skill set in order to continue being the skier you want to be. And some people have it more naturally than others. I went to business school. I studied marketing and information management. Fuck, half of skiing right now is marketing yourself well. So, if you can do that, then you're set. But I like the old school route. I wish it was like that still. Just kick ass skiing and stuff works out for you. But it's not that easy today.
Yeah, totally. I think there's, as the ski industry kind of blew up a little bit more, there's, more people with more access. There's more people in the world. And so, really the pool has grown so big that it's like, how do you become the most colorful, big, flashy fish you possibly can,
Totally. Yeah, and I think it's just it's learning your strengths and sticking to your guns.
Yeah.
Are you a big mountain skier? Are you a park skier? Are you going to do a little of both? Are you going to be a jack of all trades, or where should you really focus your time and energy? Is it competitions, or do you crush it shooting photos? Whatever it is, you need to understand where your value comes from and really go for that. Not to say you shouldn't have fun doing whatever you want to do skiing, but if you want to make it a profession, there are sacrifices that I've definitely taken and people have to take, but they're not the worst sacrifices when you get to ski and flip off cliffs and whatever it is.
Yeah, totally. Growing up ski racing, I think we both heard over and over and over, you're going to have to make sacrifices. You're going to have to make sacrifices. Like, we're trying to stay up in school. We're trying to work out. We're trying to eat healthy and traveling for competitions. And, you make sacrifices in friend life. You make sacrifices in missing dances or whatever. I think that's kind of the cliche thing to make a sacrifice in. But I think the sacrifices kind of have changed a little bit. But yeah. It's an interesting spot. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
No, totally. Well, yeah, I mean, I think a huge, to go off sacrifices, it's a lot of it is doing back end work. I spend a lot of time on my computer, writing emails and perfecting a resume and working on a website and doing these things that you really need to do if you want to make it right now. And I spend time reading, how to write, business emails and proposals and this and that. And, all of that stuff is important now. And, I spend a lot of time doing that. And, that's where some of my sacrifices come in. Instead of going to play volleyball or go to the beach or float down the river and drink, it's doing, back end stuff and writing emails and reaching out to potential sponsors or whatever it is. And that's one of the big differences I see between myself and, people who are really pursuing skiing and the people that are really good at skiing but haven't quite made it is, how much are you really, really willing to put into it? And it's got to be more than just the skiing.
Yeah, totally. I think, once you've perfected, maybe not perfected, refined your skills on the slopes, then it really does become everything that you're doing off the slopes that matters so much more, because once you know how to ski, as long as you're continuing to do it at a pretty regular, in a pretty regular amount of time or frequency, then it's pretty much all about what you're doing off the hill.
Yeah, totally. And I'm new to this game, so I'm constantly picking people's brains and trying to figure out how this world works, because it's a totally new world to me. And it's kind of interesting. There's no book written on it. There's no right or wrong way. It's just everyone has their own way, and it's just trying to navigate that world yourself and not go crazy doing it.
Yeah, totally. A lot of people kind of think that it's unauthentic to pursue it in this different way. What's your opinion on that? Because I'll share my opinion afterwards, but I'd love to hear what your opinion is on that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's really easy to discredit certain skiers because maybe they're not the raddest or the baddest or whatever, but those people are working harder on the back end to make it happen. And I think that's super respectable. And, would I rather work in a restaurant for 5 months out of the year, or would I rather buckle down and, spend a few hours on the day on the computer writing emails and perfecting drafts and, kind of networking and getting stuff dialed so I don't have to work at a restaurant? That's the question I always, ask myself and ask people. You're not selling yourself out. You're making it possible for yourself to do what you love all the time.
Yeah.
And so I think it's an ego thing when people are like, no, that's a sellout, get some knee pads because, you're going to, you're sucking the industry's, what. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's a lot of ego that I've also had to like tell myself, you know what, like the juice is worth the squeeze.
Yeah.
Just do this stuff and it'll be worth it, and it's a lot of work at times, but it's always worth it for skiing.
Yeah, totally. And I think in any job you have to do dirty work. And if that's the dirty work, sitting on the computer and refining it, for me it's almost become something that's fun because you get to explore this new aspects, and you get to gain knowledge and wisdom in an area that maybe you never thought was actually a part of the sport, but it's this whole extra world in the sport that really it has a huge impact on how you're seen. And so yeah, for me it's been fun. But yeah, I definitely it's really easy to, especially in the ski world, unless you have someone filming you, you never get to see what you're doing, and so you validate yourself through other people's eyes a lot of the time. And so
Yep.
you end up taking other people's opinions, and if it's a shared opinion throughout the quote-unquote community that like you're selling out by selling yourself in this way, then you almost start seeing yourself through these other people's eyes. And it's like you have to rein it back and take a step back and be like, no, this is me, this is my, it's an individual sport. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no, totally. It's yeah, and I don't know of many skiers that I think are sellouts, if any. We're all kind of trying to do the same thing. We're all trying to ski and make it possible for us to ski as much as possible. And unless you're doing conniving things and undercutting people, I think just do your thing and make it happen for yourself. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, totally. Where is your favorite place you've ever traveled to ski? We've got to ski some pretty amazing places. So what's your favorite place you've ever skied?
Revelstoke is definitely one of my favorite places.
Yeah,
it's just like magical up there. I love Jackson Hole. I love Squaw Valley.
Totally.
Squaw is obviously my favorite place. I'm from Squaw, and I'm definitely biased towards Squaw. But I like skiing anywhere there's good snow, and I love exploring new mountains and new places.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't really traveled much in Europe, and I've definitely skied a few cool spots in New Zealand and Argentina. Portillo is pretty awesome. Temple Basin, New Zealand is a really cool spot if anyone ever gets a chance to go there. But yeah, any new mountain that has good snow.
Totally. Is that Revelstoke bib in the background there, the black one behind you?
Hell yeah.
Totally. Yeah, Revelstoke is pretty amazing. That place, just so big. The runs there are super long, and it's pretty funny. There's like closed signs on like caution cliff signs on like 15, 20-foot cliffs, but then you can ski up on like an 80-footer, and there's no signage at all. That place is...
Yeah.
It had me laughing after spending a couple of days there. I'm like, so they're going to tell us about this one, but, I could come hauling into this one, and yeah.
Totally. It's wild out there.
Do you have any places that you really are gunning to ski? Anything that's on, the checklist, like Chamonix or something like that, that you...
I've been thinking about that a lot lately, and I need to look into it more. I'd love to travel to some cool countries and experience different ski cultures, but nothing in particular comes to mind.
Okay.
Everywhere comes to mind.
Yeah, totally. Show me where they're getting the most snow, and let's figure out a way to get there.
Yeah, I could definitely live in Whistler and sled Pemberton for the rest of my life. That place looks. I've never skied Pemberton, but I've seen a lot of video. That place is sick.
Totally. If you had one piece of advice you would give to a kid that wants to do what you do, what would it be?
It would be, if I were to give advice to a kid, and if I were to give advice to an aspiring professional skier kid, I would tell him that let's see. That's a really good question. Yeah, if I were to give advice to a kid who wants to be a professional skier, I would tell him to, first of all, have fun and love what you do, and understand that it's a long process to become a professional skier or a professional at anything you want to do, and just to continue to see the progress and push yourself and jump on opportunities that present themselves, and be a good person. It's I don't know.
Yeah, totally, man. I love.
What would you say?
Believe in yourself. Don't let others' opinions get in the way of who you want to be or what you want to do. And also at this point, there are so many good skiers out there. You're not the best skier in the world if you didn't ski today. And so, getting out there, getting the repetition, you can only be the best skier if you skied today. And a lot of it is about, I think, having a personality. And, I think that's one thing that Shane was really good at, something that Ian McIntosh is really good at, something that you've been really good at. You're really charismatic, and you can really be a people person. And I think that goes a really long way in the sport right now, because there's so many good skiers out there. Like Tyler Curl, you were talking about in the movie. That dude slays. And,
Totally.
There's just so many good young skiers coming up. There's so many good skiers that are, older than us that are still killing it. And, I think that there's a way to stand out with personality, whether it's the Seth Morrison party, crazy hair, Glenn Blake mohawk. But, that's the biggest trend that I think I've started to see about professional skiers is personality, having a bigger than life personality. And,
Yeah, totally. I agree. I haven't really thought about that much, but I completely agree with you. And yeah, I think personality and just being your authentic self, and you can also grow into, a personality over time. And for me, it's like, I didn't identify myself as a skier when I was in Boulder. I was kind of a college partier, just degenerate, studying business on the side. And it's taken time for me to, re-identify myself in my own head as a skier.
Yeah.
And, and just, being your authentic self and whatever that is. Everyone has their own ways. Cody Townsend's freaking hilarious on Instagram.
Yep.
Johnny Collinson's the most ripped dude on Instagram. Like,
and has the best flow on Instagram.
Yeah, Marcus Gaston has the best flow on Instagram. There's a ton of ways you can do it, and a lot of them are fun.
Yeah, totally. And I think, like JT Holmes is just like a really upstanding character. He just seems like he's like this pillar of a leader in a lot of ways. And I know that you're not the only person that he's mentored. And, he I know that he knows how to have fun, but I don't think that he's really hit the personality type of like being the funny guy the way that Shane or Cody have. But I think there's a number of ways to do that, and I think JP Auclair was just this really kind-hearted, inspiring individual. So I think there's a lot of ways to express personality and being authentic to yourself. But
Totally. Yeah, you don't have to be the funniest, most charismatic person. You can be, smart and serious or professional or whatever it is, and that could be your personality. There's no right way. I'm sometimes like, shit, I'm too goofy, man. I need to lock it up a little bit. Like, what am I writing in this Instagram caption right now? This is absurd.
Yeah.
But it's it's fun. But yeah, I think personality, I agree, is a huge asset that any professional can have. Being relatable.
Yeah, totally. And you can even go to the spectrum of like Candide in few words. Like that man is like he just lets the skiing speak for itself, and he's kind of a god of skiing in a lot of ways. But yeah,
Oh yeah. Yeah, he doesn't need to talk to talk.
Exactly. Yep. He just goes out and lets his videos and his projects and his his mysteriousness kind of lead the way for this intrigue that captures the audience.
Yeah, it's cool. He does a good job.
Yeah, totally. And then you have people like Tanner Hall who have been in it. They've been he was a punk, and he really revolutionized the sport in a lot of ways, in park and stuff like that. And he's kind of been a bit of a misfit in a lot of ways, and then he's kind of adopted this whole. He's been able to define his personality over and over, which is another crazy but cool transition and path and story that's unfolded. And yeah, so
totally, yeah, he's still crushing it.
Yeah, that double backflip at Soch Big Air was pretty sick,
dude.
Yeah,
he works so hard. It's cool.
He does. If you could have one significant impact on the world, like what would you want to define as your legacy? What would be your vision that you would leave others feeling inspired to do, inspired to be? Or
I think the biggest thing that right now and that I'm subconsciously pushing through my skiing is, for one, that it's never too late to do anything. I became a professional skier after going to college, and that's kind of a backwards route. I was kind of like, each year I'm in college, I'm decreasing my chances of being a professional skier significantly. I'll be old by the time I'm pro. But I still wanted to do it, and I went for it, and it's slowly worked out, and it was kind of just this, like, it's never too late mindset. We can all learn and become what we want to become at any point. You can't become the best rock climber in the world at the age of 45 or 50, but in reasonable terms, you can, if you have a shitty job or whatever it is, and you wanted to do something else your whole life, I think it's cool that you can do that, and I don't know. Hopefully, I can help people learn that, and also just to have fun and not take life too seriously. And I think it's also important for people to get outside of their comfort zone a little bit. I was never the craziest kid when I was younger. I was always like very calculated, and if I wasn't feeling something, I just wouldn't do it. And I was the wussy of the friend group. And over time, I've pushed myself and my abilities to learn these behaviors and these ways, and it didn't come natural. It it's been a long work in progress, but it's just chipping away at just doing uncomfortable thing after uncomfortable thing, whether it's talking to a stranger on the bus or asking your boss for a promotion or learning a 540 instead of just doing the 360 you've done all season. It's like just pushing yourself a little bit. And, you know, when anyone pushes themselves and fails or doesn't fail, it's a good thing. It's a lesson learned. So, I think those are just general life things that maybe I can help inspire.
Totally. You definitely, you know, seeing you going from, you know, being the kid who was gonna win if he stomped it to like knowing that you were probably gonna stomp your run and you were probably gonna be right up there, and then watching you step into the Monumental Series and making that, you know, that giant leap, never having skinned before. I didn't even know that. And then, you know, never having, you know, gone winter camping, you know, it's super inspiring watching you become the person that you've become. And so, yeah, you know, you've inspired at least one person, man.
All right, sweet. Well, that's a success right there.
Totally. Where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Connery, C0NNERY. The name actual Connery was taken, which is crazy. How many Connerys are there in the world? But yeah, Connery, C0NNERY. I have a fairly disappointing Facebook page, so don't go there. And I'm continually working on my website, so Instagram's a spot, though. That's where I post all hot shit.
Totally. You crush it on Instagram. All your pictures and videos are super awesome. All your videos seem to go viral. So, yeah. Are there any projects you're working on this winter? Do you have anything lined up that you can talk about with us? Or
right now, you know, it's funny. I get asked that a lot, and I kind of learned to answer it all the same way. Everything in skiing happens super last minute.
Totally.
I'm talking like a day before the trip or a week before.
Yep.
So nothing is totally lined up yet. But ideas have come up. I am doing an X Games Real Snow thing for squaw that's coming out in the next few weeks.
Sick.
You know, the X Games Real Snow competitions, they did one between all the major big mountain resorts this year. I think Whistler, Squaw, Aspen, Snowbird, Revelstoke, Jackson Hole. So I got to be on board with the Squaw team. They picked 3 athletes, me, Michelle Parker, and Sammy Lupke, the snowboarder. So that's coming out soon. I also just did a movie with High Fives Foundation.
Yeah, totally. That's
kind of
awesome.
talking about a lot of what we talked about. It's directed towards, you know, making smart on-hill decisions and, you know, having a sustainable, you know, ski career or snowboard career, whatever it is. And it's, you know, about avalanche safety and then, you know, just like the mental preparation and, you know, making smart decisions and whatever it is you do. So that's coming up. Those are both coming out in the next month, and those should be really cool.
Awesome, man. Yeah, my dad's in a wheelchair. I build hand cycles for people in wheelchairs on the side right now. And
nice.
You know, the High Fives Foundation is awesome. We've built several bikes for people who have gotten sponsored by them to get the bikes. So, you know, I love everything the High Fives Foundation does. And, you know, for people that don't know, they help. Sorry, my dog's going nuts right now. They help people who are in wheelchairs rehab from injuries and also TBI, traumatic brain injuries and stuff like that. And you know, they're a really awesome organization. And so, you know, if anyone out there know someone who's been injured that is lacking community, who is in the extreme sports, definitely check out the High Fives Foundation. They do some awesome stuff.
Yep, they do.
So that's awesome that you're doing stuff with them for sure. Is there anything else you want to say? Anything you want to leave us with? Any words of wisdom?
I think I've said it all. I don't know.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. It was fun. It was fun chatting with you, man.
Definitely, man. It's always fun to chat with you.
I hope you guys really enjoyed that episode with Connery. He is an amazing young man, and it's an honor for me to call him a friend. It's really unfortunate to hear about his injury right now. So my only call to action in this podcast is just head over to his Instagram at C0NNERY and give him some love. Send him a message. Say that you're from the Athletic Stance and that we're sending love. And yeah, man, if you're listening right now, I hope that you're healing up quick, and looking forward to catching you maybe this summer for some turns in Mount Hood if you're healed up by then. Cheers, brother.